Hi, I'm Tom Elliot and welcome to another financial markets update for Hodges Real Estate. Well, a sense of eerie calm has descended upon the Australian economy recently. Why, you might ask? Well, it's because of this, and it's the big one sitting in the room, the so-called 800-pound gorilla. We've got an election coming up. Now, it's still the best part of 3 months away, but the reality is no one really wants to make a big decision at the moment. Whether you're someone who's shopping in the local shops, whether you're a business contemplating borrowing money and expanding, and even with the property market, there's a sense that buyers, while they are buying, are just not bidding up to the sort of levels that one might expect. Why? It's a story as old as, well, the study of economics itself. People hate uncertainty, and yet the reality is this is one of the most certain elections we have seen in modern day Australia. If the opinion polls are to be believed, and while one or two could be rogues, the fact is they're all pointing in the same direction. What is coming up on September 14 will be a landslide for Tony Abbott as Prime Minister and the Coalition as the new governing party of Australia. My prediction is this: consumers will start buying again, businesses will start investing, property buyers will start buying in greater numbers once the election is over on September 14. But just remember this, it is not impossible that the election could still come at an earlier date. When it comes to just the broad economic figures for the Australian economy, economic growth has slowed slightly, probably now to between 2.5% and 2.75%. The good news is that unemployment is very steady, 5.5%. Here in Victoria, it's actually at 5.4%, so we are actually slightly better than the national average. So the old Rust Belt states have actually started to improve a little bit at the same time that some of the employment growth in the mining states, Western Australia and to a lesser extent Queensland, has started to slow. Overseas, there's actually some pretty good news, and it's this. The American economy is definitely starting to improve. Just less than 2 weeks ago, the chief of the US Federal Reserve, their equivalent of our Reserve Bank, a man called Ben Bernanke, he came out and said that he could see an end to money printing, to quantitative easing fairly soon. And the reason is simple, because the US economy is improving. Now, unemployment in America is still high at 7.5%, but it is moving in the right direction, and that's down. And Ben Bernanke has made it clear is that when unemployment in America starts tending towards 6.5%, so it's still got a fair way to go, he will stop printing money. Now, right now, the US Federal Reserve is printing 85 billion new US dollars a month. 85 billion, it's a colossal number, and that's every month. And what they are now calling Operation Taper, that number, I think between roughly October 2013 and over the ensuing 9 months through to the middle of next year, 2014, we'll see that number starting to reduce. So quantitative easing, money printing in the US is starting to stop. In China, it's maybe a different story, and arguably China has more of an impact on Australia's economic fortunes. There's no doubt the Chinese economy has slowed, but again, it's slowing towards 7% growth per annum, which is still dramatic by the standards of everywhere else in the rest of the world. So it's nothing to really worry about too much. Having said that, the end of quantitative easing, even though it hasn't happened yet, but the announcement that it could end, has sent share markets into a tailspin recently. The ASX 200 index, for example, has lost more than 10% off its highs. It's fallen from around 5,200 points, which was its peak only about a month and a half ago, down to where it is now around 4,700 points. Anything over 10% is an official correction. That very much defines a correction. So what does this mean for interest rates in Australia? Now, we know that the Reserve Bank did cut interest rates again in this country. They're at an all-time low at the moment of 2.5%. And indeed, again, as I've said many times, if you look at fixed bank loans at the moment over 2, 3 and 4 years, all the big banks are offering deals that we've just never seen before, even in the depths of the global financial crisis during 2008, 2009. But here's a bit of a warning. Since Ben Bernanke made his speech and said that the US would stop printing money hand over fist, global bond rates, that is the rates at which governments have to borrow money, have started to go up. Now, here in Australia, the 10-year rate is around about 4%. It's gone up around 0.5% over the past few weeks. That says to me that we need to start locking in rates fairly soon. If global rates are starting to trend up, it doesn't mean they'll go up dramatically, but it probably means that any further falls are going to be very, very small and may well not happen at all. I do believe that global interest rates have now bottomed out, and that means from this point on they're only going up. So again, my recommendation to people is if you have not fixed any debt, now is definitely the time to think about doing it. There are some excellent rates on offer. In fact, I've been offered over 3 years 4.95%, which is astonishingly low, and I think something that borrowers should look to grab with both hands. So what does all this mean for the property market? Well, the good news is for overseas buyers of property, their purchasing power has just jumped by the same amount that the Australian dollar has fallen, more than 10% in the past few weeks. Anecdotal evidence suggests that overseas buyers have recently become more active in the Melbourne property market, and why wouldn't they? If they've got US dollars, their US dollars now buy them a lot more Australian dollars than was the case only very recently. As to local buyers, well, on the negative side, we've got the end of the first home buyers grant here in Victoria. That's on June 30. There's probably a little bit of a bubble in the under $600,000 sort of market for people trying to grab that last $7,000 from the state government. Post July 1, 2013, the state government will tip in $10,000, but only if you're buying a brand new home. So the first home buyers grant for established housing is on the way out. The good news is, of course, is that interest rates are ultra low. The rate of unemployment is staying steady at around 5.5%. Don't focus too much on all the job scare stories out there, Holden cutting jobs, Shell cutting jobs in Geelong, etc. The fact is, for all the people who are losing jobs, either the same people or other people are finding jobs. That's the reason that the unemployment rate is steady. So overall, I think that the improvement we've seen in the residential property market over the past 12 months has been modest, but it has improved. It's up around 3% depending on which particular set of figures you tend to look at. I think that improvement will continue on in the foreseeable future. The ultra low interest rates and steady unemployment rate cannot be ignored in the current property market. Thanks very much for your company. I look forward to doing it again next month. I'm Tom Elliot, and this has been another Financial Markets Update for Hodges Real Estate.